Now, what is the biggest, you ask in your book here, you say, what is the biggest problem in your personal life? Now, it seems like you're getting kind of personal here. What do you mean by that?
Your personal life's pretty personal, actually. and I think you just got to reflect. You got to be honest with yourself. Is it your marriage? Is it your children are not doing well in school?
Yeah.
Is it your health? Are you really suffering? You got diabetes, you're overweight, you need, whatever the issue is, what is it really?
Yeah.
Once when you say, this is my biggest problem, I would tell people every day in your planner or your phone, you should have your biggest problem in there and you should work on it every day till it goes away.
Yeah.
Every day, not like, and reason people don't do it, it's hard.
Well, I know that our son was born blind back in 2007. And until that point, I was not scheduling time to take my wife on dates consistently.
She mentioned that to me. I was surprised.
Oh, well, I was not doing that. That's true. I wasn't doing it. And it took, though, that tragic event of some of the stuff we were dealing with my son to realize, I don't even have time in my schedule to go to these appointments for his medical appointments, let alone I hadn't spent time with my wife. And I sat down with a mentor and I was asking him for some tips on how to get through this situation and what I could do to stay positive. And he said, how often are you taking your wife on a date? And when I was asking myself, I was like, I don't think I've taken her on a date for at least 7 years, maybe 6 years. I mean, it was pretty sad. And so when I would ask myself what I didn't like about my personal life, if I was doing that every day, I would have honestly said, I'm not being the husband I should be. And I just think it's so important that we're asking ourselves these questions, because a lot of times by asking ourselves these questions, looking at the man in the mirror, we can begin to make some big changes as long as we...
Hey, listen, there's only two reasons people change. You did because you were educated by somebody who told you what to do. Or crisis. Yeah. Your wife leaves you. Yeah. Or you're having a lot of arguments. Education or crisis, and hopefully this is education, so some people are going to change. Some people are going to change eventually because of crisis. I mean, I changed toward my own wife. She almost died in 08, 09. I took care of her for almost 2 years, ended up with depression. I told her after, I said, Priscilla, I used to love you. Now I'm madly in love with you. I thought you were going to die. Yeah. It crisis. It shakes you up and puts you in another place. And hopefully most people can get ahead of it. Don't end up changing because of a crisis. After the divorce, you become a better person. Or after your kids are in drug rehab, you start paying more attention to them. Or this is...
We encourage you, if you're watching this right now, to kind of create that sense of urgency right now. Like, don't wait for it to get bad with your health or your finances or your marriage or whatever that situation is. Go ahead right now and ask yourself these questions. I know in your book you said, the next question is, what is the biggest problem in your work life? What are you talking about there?
Well, when I was at Hewlett, my biggest problem in my work life was my boss.
Okay.
And one day a week off, Thursdays. So I had no home life. I was out of control. It wasn't great. My wife wasn't happy about it. You just have to, maybe it's a project that's biggest problem in your business life is a project you've been putting off because you don't know how to do it. So it's really important and it's vital, and your boss is going to bite you one day because you haven't done it. And you don't know how to go out and get other people to help you and get started.
It might be an uncomfortable question for you, but I want to ask you, because you've been in business for a long time. Was there ever a time in your career where you think back upon yourself in your own career where you said that you were your own biggest problem in your work life? I mean, did you ever have like a character flaw or some issue where you were like, this is definitely limiting my work life and my career?
And it did. I was autocratic. I was so organized that I abused people. I used my authority in the wrong way. I intimidated people so they got their job done. I got a lot done, but I'm sure if I was in the middle of the street, they would have run over me on purpose. And yeah, I was that way. And it was going to affect my long-term career, because you don't get promoted, you don't get into higher level positions if you're autocratic and pushing people around and scaring people and not treating people respectfully. And I had to learn that lesson, but it was 15 years into my career where I went through kind of a tough time.
Pretend that I'm a third grader doing life here, running a business or starting a career. What do you mean by autocratic, just so I get that?
Well, I think if when I pull in the parking lot and everybody's running away from my car in the morning, that's probably a bad sign.
Probably Darth Vader action there.
If nobody wants to come tell me the truth because I overreact, or I don't want to hear it, or I tell them just go do your job and don't get into, autocratic. And it's like parents, you don't ever want to scare your kids. You want them to feel safe. I want people at work to feel safe. So then they can give you 150%. If they're always worrying about how to deal with you and manipulating you. And
Darth Vader was tough to work with. He always worried he was going to choke you or kill you, or what about the lightsaber?
They all get it in the end. All those kind of people get it in the end.